Snow drifted down in slow, silent flakes, soft enough to feel magical but cold enough to sting the fingertips of anyone who lingered too long. Rebecca Hale stepped out of her SUV, the engine still humming, exhaust curling into the frosted air. She wasn't supposed to be here, her board meeting had run late, the winter roads were slick, and she'd taken the scenic route through the pines to clear her head. The last thing she expected was to find a little girl standing alone in the middle of the road. The child couldn't have been more than 4 years old. She wore a red corduroy dress layered over a knit sweater, its sleeves damp with melted snow. Her small boots were half buried in the drifts. Her cheeks were red from wind and worry, and her blue eyes trembled with tears. Rebecca's heart lurched. She crouched immediately, careful not to startle her. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "are you all right?" The girl looked up at her, lips quivering. "Ma'am," she whispered, voice breaking, "I can't find my daddy." The words sliced through the quiet forest like a cry for help. Rebecca didn't think, didn't hesitate. She placed her gloved hand gently over the girl's tiny fingers. "It's okay. I'm here now. What's your name?" "Lottie," the girl sniffled. "We were walking. Daddy told me to stay by the road while he checked on something in the woods. But he didn't come back. I called and called." Rebecca looked over the girl's shoulder toward the dense tree line. Tall pines towered like dark sentries, the forest floor swallowed in deep snow. The cold bit sharper suddenly, as if reminding her of the danger. "How long has he been gone?" Rebecca asked. "I dunno," Lottie said. "A long time." The wind carried a mournful whistle between the trees. Rebecca's instincts screamed that something was wrong. A man didn't leave his daughter alone on a highway in a snowstorm unless something terrible had happened. She tightened her grip on Lottie's hand. "Stay with me. We're going to find him together." Without waiting for another beat, she jogged toward the woods, half carrying the little girl through the snowdrifts. The trees swallowed them quickly, the air dimming as branches knitted overhead. Lottie pointed toward a narrow path where footprints led deeper in. "That's Daddy's," she said. "He went that way." Rebecca followed the trail, her breath forming clouds, her heartbeat loud enough to feel in her throat. She wasn't prepared for this. She was a CEO, she managed thousands of employees, made decisions that moved millions of dollars, ran meetings, solved crises. But none of that mattered now. Right here, she was just a woman trying to save someone's father. The prince veered suddenly off the path, staggering. Rebecca felt her stomach drop. "Lottie," she said gently, "did your dad seem hurt before he left?" "He held his tummy," the girl murmured. "But he said he was okay." Rebecca felt ice settle in her veins. A medical emergency in the middle of a winter forest could turn fatal fast. "Daddy!" Lottie cried suddenly, her voice echoing through the trees. Silence answered. Rebecca squeezed her hand. "Let's keep going." The footprints grew messier, dragging as if the man had been losing strength. Then, a few yards ahead, Rebecca spotted something, an arm half buried in snow, a figure slumped beside a fallen log. "Lottie, stay behind me," she said, rushing forward. The man lay on his side, face pale, breath shallow. Rebecca knelt and brushed snow from his coat. He was conscious, barely. His eyelids fluttered open. "Lottie," he rasped. "She's right here," Rebecca said urgently. "She's safe." "Sir, can you tell me what happened?" "Pain, stomach," he gasped. "Thought it would pass. Then, dizzy." Rebecca recognized the signs: possible hypothermia, dehydration, and something internal. He needed help immediately. "Lottie," Rebecca said firmly, "I need you to listen. I'm going to call for help. Stay right next to your daddy, okay?" The girl nodded bravely, wiping her cheeks as she sat beside him, grabbing his hand with both of hers. Rebecca dialed emergency services, speaking quickly, giving coordinates as best she could. The dispatcher promised a rescue team would be there as soon as possible, but the nearest town was 20 minutes away on clear roads, longer in this weather. She returned to the father, shrugging off her heavy coat and draping it over him. Her expensive wool sweater offered little protection, and the cold gnawed at her immediately, but she ignored it. "Stay with me," she said to him. "Help is coming." He looked at her with gratitude clouded by pain. "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would come by." Rebecca shook her head. "Your daughter's courage is the reason we're here." The snow fell thicker now, obscuring the forest around them. The temperature dropped. Lottie shivered violently. Rebecca pulled the girl onto her lap and wrapped her arms around her, sharing what little warmth she had left. Minutes stretched, heavy and silent. The father's breathing grew weaker. Each time his eyes drooped shut, Rebecca pressed her hand to his shoulder, urging him to stay awake. "You're doing great," she kept saying. "Keep talking if you can." He managed a faint smile. We're going to the lodge. Holiday trip. My wife passed last year. Wanted to give Lottie something special." Rebecca swallowed hard. The girl nestled against her chest, unaware of how close she'd come to losing everything. "You're giving her something special right now," Rebecca said. "You're holding on." The distant sound of an engine broke through the quiet, faint but growing. Rebecca stiffened, hope flaring. "Do you hear that?" she whispered to Lottie. The little girl's head lifted. "Is that them?" "Yes." "Keep calling to them. They'll find us faster." Lottie began shouting, "We're here! Daddy's here!" Voices answered. Branches snapped as paramedics and rescue workers hurried through the woods, flashlights cutting through the gloom. When they reached the fallen man, two dropped to their knees instantly, checking vitals and preparing the stretcher. One medic looked at Rebecca. "You saved his life." A few more minutes and his core temperature would have dropped too low. Rebecca felt her breath finally escape her in a shaky exhale. As they lifted the man onto the stretcher, Lottie clung to Rebecca's hand. "Can I stay with you until Daddy's better?" Rebecca squeezed her gently. "I'll be right there with you." The medics guided them back to the road, where an ambulance waited, lights flashing against the snow. Rebecca picked up Lottie and carried her carefully, the girl's small arms circling her neck. Before climbing into the ambulance, the father turned his head, eyes glassy but full of emotion. "Thank you," he whispered again. Rebecca nodded. "Just focus on getting better." Inside the warm ambulance, Lottie laid her head on Rebecca's shoulder, exhausted but calm now. Rebecca brushed snowflakes from her hair, her chest tight with a strange mixture of relief and protectiveness. As the doors closed and the siren began its slow wail, Rebecca realized something quietly profound. Earlier today she'd been racing to a meeting that defined her career, worried about presentations and projections. Now none of it mattered in the face of this small girl who trusted her completely. Sometimes, she thought, life reroutes you for a reason. Hours later at the hospital, after the father was stabilized and resting, Lottie ran to Rebecca in the waiting room and wrapped her arms around her waist. "You found my daddy," she said simply. "You're my hero." Rebecca crouched, brushing a strand of blonde hair from the girl's face. "No," she said softly. "You were the brave one. I just followed your lead." Lottie smiled sleepily and leaned into her. In the hum of fluorescent lights and the quiet murmur of nurses, Rebecca felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a warmth that had nothing to do with blankets or hot cocoa. Something deeper. Something like purpose. The snow outside continued to fall, soft and glowing under the street lamps, but there was no longer any fear in it. Only the memory of a cold forest where a child had cried out for help, and where a stranger had answered without hesitation.